China was, I want to be the manufacturing leader. You could see that coming then. They were starting to invest in manufacturing. So the three of them had major investments, and most of the other regions cut back. And I think you saw some country changes that occurred. So it's not just a company like Intel. You can see it impact in the country, and I was there, so I could witness this firsthand. Very, very powerful. So that's going on right now. And it's very, very, you know, this is a once in a lifetime, once in a generation kind of global changing event. I want to share some thoughts with you on that. These are some areas of government policy. I want to show you a couple of programs here. We started working with Spain back in about 2002 on IT for the people and the pymes and the businesses. And they brought in programs for students and citizens and businesses and pymes to try and equip them with IT. And this was their curve on PCs before these programs came in. These were programs like you have in Chile called Mi Primer PC, except they had about 10 different flavors of Mi Primer PC, where the banks, the telecoms, the government all cooperated. You would find zero-interest loans going to students. You'd find telecoms doing aggregated bundled programs, as long as you became the bank's customer in this. And they worked very, very diligently to cooperate to put these programs together. The net was instead of the red line on PC penetration, it was the green line. Very, very focused cooperative program. Lots of Mi Primer PCs, but for students, for pymes, for teachers, for doctors, for many different groups of people, always focused. We was in the middle of a number of these, and so we could see this one. Made a huge difference, over 10, actually close to 15 points, and about 1.5 million computers in a population of 50 million. So to try and get that number, 1.5 million bigger than the forecast, is quite sizable. It's several points of growth in there, and we could see that. That was what happened in Spain. Now today, we're in a recessive environment, and you pick up any newspaper, you look around, you talk to any of your friends, what you see is it's tough economic times. Every country in the world, no one is immune to this. You see these headlines everywhere. Now, if you look around and see what some of these countries are doing, this is a flavor. United States, there was a lot of governmental spending that went on in this. I'll pick out the pieces on IT that we can see, that we're engaged in. Number one is education. Re-equip some of the schools in here. Second one was broadband, about 7 billion on banda ancha. A lot of that will be wireless, and a lot of it is focused on rural, people that don't have access today. The cities do, the rural, the outskirts of these, and the hills and the mountains don't. So the broadband, there is electronic patient records on health. That's going to be a big transformation. England has done this. A few European countries have done this. North America has not. And intelligent energy, smart grids. And that's going to create this whole new set of energy savings areas. So some fairly big investments in those. The other one in there, for the government folks here, is also in the pymes. They've done some tax laws where you can depreciate the cost of capital equipment. So if you're a pymes, rather than taking 4 years to write off the cost of your equipment, you can do it in 1. America does this, Japan does this, several other countries. So you can accelerate. Makes it more attractive for them to equip themselves with IT and electronic equipment. What's happened in this last tax law is the level for the pymes has risen. So instead of you can deduct 125,000 a year, you can deduct $250,000 a year in 1 year on the tax and write it off in 1 year rather than 4. So that meant some of the, not just the P's in pymes, but the M, I guess, in pymes can also become part of this to create jobs. Equip yourself to create jobs. So that's the US. The one that looks to me like the most concerted program around the world is China. This reminds me of the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games because it is so precisely orchestrated on a national agenda and program that's been moving forward for about the last 3 or 4 years. What they realized is the world is in recession, my factories are going to be empty, and I have this enormous number of rural people 700 or 800 million that aren't part of the economy. They're farmers, they live in the West. I want to bring them into the economy. And so that's been a big push. And the reason you bring them into the economy is you cannot have 1 billion people going to Beijing and Shanghai to find jobs. It just doesn't work. You have to find them jobs where they live. And so in this big push on keeping factories full, $570 billion, it's the biggest spend I've seen focused on jobs creation. About 30% is intelligent railroads. Make the railroads, make them more like Japan's railroads, very powerful, very fast, lots of IT in these, very intelligent railroads. The second thing is broadband. That's a massive spend, $41 billion on wireless broadband. It's old technology, it's 3G, but it's a very, very good technology for reaching some of the rural areas. I think we can do a little bit better than that with WiMAX, but that does reach a lot of people. There is the tax on PCs for farmers and rural. That 13% VAT is removed. That means the factories can be more full. It's for PCs and fridges and TVs and appliances built in Chinese factories. So the factories will remain fuller because they fill up the recession with internal consumption. Keep the factories running more, make it more effective. And there's a tremendous amount of work in credit. The biggest push, I think one of the biggest push here has been in credit, where the last 6 months, in fact the last 3 months, more funds have flown to the PIMAs than in the previous year. Tremendous increase. When other countries have credit problems, with the financial muscle behind China, they're putting more and more money into their businesses, more and more money into the PIMAs, and the capitalization of those has gone up, not down. So that flow of capital into PIMAs has actually increased. So very, very, I guess we get the message here. Where are we, Louise? This is yours. Sorry, okay. Yeah, he has a different mouse to me, I guess. Just take me a second. Okay, here we go. Okay. So that gives you a flavor of China, very focused. Portugal, very strong relations with Latin America. Major program there where they use the 3G license money, $400 million, to subsidize PCs for students, teachers, and poor people. What's happened is under a national plan, the users have gone up, the broadband has gone up, the number of trained teachers is going up dramatically. We train teachers in Portugal, we train teachers in Chile, and the number of students per PC in young kids' schools as a program to go up dramatically. So essentially every kid can have one. 2 to 1 means everyone has access to laptops. So that's a program in Portugal. If you look in India, this has got one of the most inventive I've seen, where in India you can see new models. This is aimed at entrepreneurship and jobs. So they're trying to create more jobs. And there were some tax reductions, but the biggest single action was the government got behind the banks so they could do loans for equipment. And in some cases, they're doing these at 0 interest. There's a program called Flood IT, which is 100,000 computers in 100 days at 0 interest through the government's backing up the banks. It sold 13,000 in the first day about a week ago. Had an effect. There's a massive amount of effort there, tremendous amount of willpower and coordination, but really good.